The CEO said, "Fix my plane and I'll grant one wish." The single dad said, "My daughter needs a mom." The private jet was supposed to leave at sunrise, carrying one of the wealthiest CEOs in the country to the biggest business deal of his life. Instead, the engines refused to start, alarms echoed across the runway, and millions of dollars hung in the balance. Mechanics rushed around in panic, experts argued over complicated diagnostics, and every passing minute increased the pressure. Then, from the corner of the hangar, a quiet single father with grease-stained hands stepped forward, carrying nothing but a weathered toolbox and years of experience that nobody seemed to notice. No one expected that before the sun reached its highest point, one impossible promise would change two broken families forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness still has the power to change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories that remind us hope is never truly lost. Every morning, Rowan Mercer arrived at the small regional airport before dawn. While executives flew across continents and tourists chased vacations, Rowan quietly repaired aircraft that carried dreams far bigger than his own. His hands were rough from years of tightening bolts, replacing engines, and solving problems that expensive computers often missed. The airport employees respected him, but few actually knew him. They only saw a hardworking mechanic who never complained and always volunteered for overtime. What they did not see was the little pink backpack sitting in his old pickup truck every afternoon, waiting for the moment he picked up his 8-year-old daughter, Ivy, from school. Ever since Ivy's mother passed away after a sudden illness 4 years earlier, Rowan had lived every single day trying to become both father and mother. He learned how to braid hair by watching online tutorials during late nights. He packed lunches shaped like little hearts because Ivy once smiled so brightly after seeing one. He attended school plays, parent meetings, and dance recitals without ever missing a shift at work. Every sacrifice seemed worthwhile because Ivy remained the brightest light in his life, even though behind her cheerful smile lived a quiet loneliness she never fully understood herself. The little girl never asked for expensive toys or fancy vacations. Instead, she often watched other children hugging both parents after school, then quietly squeezed her father's hand just a little tighter. Rowan noticed those silent moments more than anyone else. They hurt him deeply because there was nothing he could do to replace the mother Ivy had lost. One bright spring morning, chaos erupted across the executive terminal. A luxurious private jet belonging to billionaire CEO Graham Whitlock had suffered an unexpected mechanical failure just hours before an international conference that would determine the future of his company. Teams of specialists examined every system. Replacement parts were ordered. Engineers argued over possible electrical failures, yet nothing worked. The airport manager finally remembered Rowan. Within minutes Rowan climbed into the cockpit. Instead of relying entirely on digital scanners, he listened. He closed his eyes, placed one hand against the engine housing, and noticed an unusual vibration almost nobody else detected. Years of experience guided him toward a tiny hydraulic synchronization valve buried beneath layers of expensive equipment. One damaged seal had triggered a chain reaction that confused every computerized diagnostic system. 2 hours later, the engines roared back to life. The runway filled with applause. Executives stared in disbelief. Even Graham Whitlock himself walked across the tarmac, dressed in an expensive tailored suit that probably cost more than Rowan earned in several months. The billionaire extended his hand. He told Rowan he had just saved an agreement worth nearly $2 billion. He insisted that money alone could never properly reward such skill. Smiling for what seemed like the first genuine time in years, Graham made an unusual promise. He declared that Rowan could ask for one wish, and if it was within his power, he would make it happen. The airport staff expected Rowan to request a new house, a luxury car, enough money to retire, or perhaps a promotion. Instead, Rowan looked toward the family parking lot where Ivy's little backpack rested inside his truck. His voice barely rose above a whisper. He admitted that his daughter needed a mom. Silence swept across the runway. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Nobody had expected such an answer. Graham lowered his hands slowly. For a moment, the billionaire's confident expression disappeared, replaced by something much heavier. Because Rowan had unknowingly touched the deepest wound in Graham's own heart. Years earlier, Graham's obsession with building his global empire had destroyed his marriage. His wife had begged him to spend more time with family instead of chasing profits. He never listened until the divorce papers arrived. His grown son eventually stopped answering phone calls, and despite owning mansions across 3 countries, Graham often ate dinner completely alone. That afternoon, instead of boarding his jet immediately, Graham cancelled his meeting for several hours. He asked Rowan to tell him about Ivy. Rowan spoke carefully. He described bedtime stories, school science fairs, Saturday pancakes shaped like animals. The way Ivy secretly left encouraging notes inside his lunchbox whenever she knew he worked double shifts. He confessed that his daughter never complained about growing up without a mother, which somehow hurt even more because children should never learn to hide sadness so well. For the first time in decades, Graham found himself listening without checking his phone. When Rowan finished, Graham quietly admitted something surprising. He could not magically give Ivy a mother. But perhaps he could help create the circumstances where hope might return. Over the following weeks, Graham kept thinking about that conversation. He quietly funded improvements at the regional airport without announcing his involvement. Rowan received better equipment, safer working conditions, and higher wages after years of neglected budgets. Yet Graham felt that still was not enough. One afternoon he invited Rowan and Ivy to visit his headquarters. The little girl wore her favorite yellow dress, her hair tied carefully in 2 braids her father had practiced for years to perfect. She wandered through the towering glass building with wide eyes, amazed by fountains, artwork, and enormous windows overlooking the city. While Rowan attended meetings with Graham, Ivy accidentally wandered into the company's employee library. There she met someone unexpected. Her name was Celeste Avery. Celeste coordinated educational outreach programs funded by the company. She had once dreamed of becoming a teacher before family responsibilities changed her plans. She possessed an effortless kindness that children noticed immediately. Ivy shyly asked whether she could borrow a coloring book. Celeste smiled warmly and spent nearly an hour drawing pictures beside her. When Rowan arrived to collect his daughter, he noticed something unusual. Ivy was laughing. Not the polite smile she usually gave strangers. A genuine laugh. The kind that filled an entire room. As weeks became months, Graham frequently invited Rowan to assist with maintaining the company's expanding aviation fleet. Each visit allowed Ivy and Celeste to spend more time together. Nothing was forced. Nothing happened quickly. Celeste admired Rowan's quiet devotion. Rowan admired her patience and gentle spirit. Most importantly, Ivy simply enjoyed having another caring adult who listened to her endless stories about school, books, and dreams. One sunny afternoon, the 3 visited a community park after Graham sponsored a charity event for local families. Children played beneath bright blue skies while food trucks lined the sidewalks. Rowan watched Ivy race toward Celeste, proudly holding a handmade flower crown she had woven herself. Without hesitation, Ivy placed it gently on Celeste's head. Then she wrapped both arms around her. It was only a child's innocent gesture. Yet Rowan felt tears filling his eyes. Celeste quietly wiped away her own. Nearby, Graham observed everything from a distance. For perhaps the first time in many years, business success meant nothing compared to the simple sight unfolding before him. The billionaire realized that wealth could purchase jets, skyscrapers, and luxury estates, but it could never manufacture moments like these. Only love created them. Months later, Graham organized another company celebration. This time it was not for investors. It honored employees whose dedication often went unnoticed. When Rowan accepted his award, he looked toward the audience. Celeste stood beside Ivy. The little girl held Celeste's hand naturally, comfortably, as though she had been doing so forever. After the ceremony ended, Rowan gathered enough courage to ask Celeste whether she would join them for dinner. She smiled before he had even finished speaking. Life slowly transformed after that evening. There were family breakfasts filled with laughter. Weekend hiking trips beneath warm sunshine. School concerts where 3 proud faces applauded instead of one. Birthday cakes baked together in flower-covered kitchens. Small ordinary moments that gradually healed extraordinary pain. Nearly 2 years after the broken airplane changed everything, Rowan stood beneath a large oak tree in a peaceful daytime garden surrounded by blooming flowers. Friends, co-workers, airport employees, and even Graham attended the intimate ceremony. Ivy scattered flower petals along the garden path with unstoppable excitement. When Rowan and Celeste exchanged vows, Ivy could no longer contain herself. She ran forward before the ceremony officially ended and hugged them both tightly. There was laughter through tears. No one minded. As everyone celebrated beneath the bright afternoon sun, Graham quietly sat alone on a nearby bench. His eyes remained fixed on the joyful family before him. Rowan approached afterward and thanked him for keeping his promise. Graham gently shook his head. He admitted that Rowan had actually granted him the greater wish. Watching another family become whole reminded him that it was never too late to repair broken relationships. A few weeks later, Graham called his estranged son. For the first time in years, the conversation lasted more than 5 minutes. Then they met for lunch. Then dinner. Eventually grandchildren entered Graham's life, proving that healing often begins with one humble decision to care about people more than success. Years passed, but Rowan never forgot the day he chose not to ask for money. He understood that wealth fades, possessions break, and fame disappears. Love remains. Every evening, as sunlight poured through the windows of their cozy home, Ivy finished her homework at the kitchen table while Celeste prepared dinner and Rowan returned from work with the same old toolbox he had carried for years. The toolbox had fixed countless airplanes. But one honest wish had repaired something far more valuable than any aircraft. It had rebuilt 3 hearts. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support allows stories like this to continue inspiring families around the world. Speech balloon special request: before you leave, comment below, love is the greatest wish. We'd love to know where you're watching from and what part of this story moved you the most. Sometimes life changes not because someone asks for everything, but because they ask for the one thing money can never buy. A father wished for nothing for himself. He wished only for his daughter to know the warmth of a mother's love again. In the end, kindness, patience, and genuine compassion accomplished what wealth alone never could. And perhaps the greatest miracle of all was that one broken airplane on one ordinary morning became the reason 2 lonely families finally found their way home.